Right, so we're delighted to be joined today by Aishling Sheridan. Aishling, how are you keeping?
I'm good, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
So the AFLW season kicked off. Was it strange watching on from afar? It's probably been the first time in 6 seasons for you not being involved.
Yeah, to be fair, it really was. I didn't know, with the time zones and stuff, would I be able to like keep up with or that. But to be fair, I kept an eye on every game because like I do still have an interest in it, and I love to see like the Irish contingency doing so well, and like they did so well last weekend, all the Irish girls. But yeah, also Collingwood. Unfortunately, they didn't get the win, but. I know we're still missing a few key players, and I've no doubt as the season gets on, they'll be flying.
Did you watch the game against the Swans? Were you able to catch the full thing, or?
No, I tried to watch it to be fair, and I couldn't figure out how to stream it and stuff. But I was able to keep up with the highlights and stuff on like
Mm,
Twitter and social media, which was good. And like I was kind of looking at the stats and stuff, just keeping an eye. And to be fair, they seemed to do really well in the first few quarters. I think it was kind of just the last quarter kind of slipped away from them. But like I know the girls, and they'll only come back firing from this, so I'll be probably tuning in to see them play again this weekend.
And what were the emotions like watching the game? I'm sure you know everyone that was on the pitch on the Collingwood side so well. Was it tough watching on, and you're not actually involved with them this season?
No, to be fair, I wouldn't say it was tough. Like I'm quite content with my decision, and um, if anything, I just want them to do really well. And like I was sad for them that they didn't get the win, but in terms of me being at home and watching, I never had an ounce of regret. I knew that I still had made the right decision, and I knew that this was going to be part of the process. And we're currently in championship ourselves here, so I think my a lot of my attention has been focused on my own kind of sport at the moment. But look, I was definitely disappointed for the girls that didn't get the win, but I wouldn't say I felt sad or upset not being there. Obviously, I just want to see them do well, but I know for me it was the right decision that I made.
Mm. And just talk to me about that decision. I think obviously it's a big commitment every year to play over there. You're so far away from home. I think you might have mentioned that family reasons was one of the reasons for you not to commit this season. But what were the factors that came into that making that call?
Yeah, look, to be fair, the last few months I definitely was out up alive, like in my own head, trying to decide what's the best thing to do. Especially I've done 5 seasons now, so I felt like I was letting so many people down, or the thoughts that like letting other people down that might look up to me, that really kills me. But again, I just had to strip it back down to what would have been the best decision for me. I could have went back out there and potentially not been 100% Ashling, and I'm no good to Collingwood then if I'm at that stage, that I'm neither here nor there. So
Mm,
and when I do something, I commit 100% to it. So I felt as if I potentially went back, I don't think I would have been able to give it what it needed to be. It's a professional sport. I'm not out there just to, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing experience and all that kind of thing. But if I'm out there for a reason. It's because I want my team to do well and I want to do well. And I felt like I probably wasn't going to be able to give that. And I didn't feel it was fair on Collingwood. I feel like, they deserved me at my best. And then, yeah, family decisions and stuff. Like, I'm not going to lie, it is quite hard. There was a stage I suffered with homesickness. I've my sister's wedding coming up. It's the first one in our house. And, being away for that yeah, that wouldn't have been easy on me. And like lots of like things happen in the family. So, I've got to really enjoy my year here. Also, like I have been with my partner 8 years now, and like we've been doing long distance, so like 6, 7 months of the year we won't see each other. And again, that's tough on them. But look, he's always been so supportive, and we've always met at work. But yeah, there's just been a few things. But again, for me to be at my best, physically and mentally, I knew that staying in Ireland was the best decision for me.
mm. So you're on an inactive list now, I think. So I guess there
Yeah.
is the option down the line. You can always go back and sort of resume a contract if you do decide to go back over the next couple of years. Is that how it works?
Yeah, yeah. So that's how it works. So I probably, I think this is how it works, but I had another year, which would have been this year. So essentially there's like a pause in my contract. So the
Yeah.
door is still open for me to go back next season and play, which, was great because I think, the thoughts of retiring and stuff at, like, I was 27 at the time, but 28 now, but I was like, I don't like that word being labeled on me. I feel, when you hear of someone retiring, it's either their body is failing them or, they're old or whatever, but I didn't want that to be labeled on me, but no, it's great because the door is still open for me. And, I definitely know, like, there is a want to get back out there. I just knew this year it wasn't for me. But yeah, no, it's good because I essentially do have next year.
Yeah, it's good to have the option anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to just bring you back, say, to the start of the AFLW days when you first went out. Like obviously now I think there's like 33 Irish players out there now, so it's almost gone mainstream in terms of county players going out there. But when you first kind of got an inkling that clubs were interested in you, it was probably around 2018, and Corey Staunton may have been the only player out there, or maybe Sarah, there was one or two others who had just gone out. But um, like, can you just take me back to the experience back then of initially getting interest from clubs? I think you went out to Darwin then maybe for
Yeah.
a team to watch you train and stuff like that. So what was it like initially? Because it was almost a foreign concept back then of players going to the AFLW.
Yeah, like that was it. Like there wasn't much players out there at the time. And I remember there was this thing where I think maybe 20 people went out to Australia for a week, and Murren was with me at the time, and Ashley McCarthy, and there was a few of us, and then there was also some girls, like cross-coder girls, so girls that played camogie, but then also netballers from over in the UK, and I think there was some from America and stuff. So it was kind of a wide mix of people. And we went out to Melbourne for a week and essentially did like our own mini combine and did some of the tests and things like that. And I just gave, I suppose, any team that maybe had an interest in looking, they could have seen us, I suppose, train and play. And then that was in September. So I think the draft then was the October. So we were all able to put our name forward in the draft. And there was kind of some talks with teams there, that was kind of had come to watch, they're like, look, you could be hopeful or whatever. So, the draft came and I didn't get picked up, which at the time I thought I might have been with a chance, but at the time I didn't. So, that was it done. And I suppose I thought to myself, okay, that's AFL done for me. I probably won't get another opportunity. And then another team had kept in contact with me, and we were full county season at this time. And I think we'd lost the league semi, or we'd lost something anyways. And we had like a 3 week gap with no games. And the team was like, look, if you ever had an opportunity to come out to Australia, can you let us know? Because we have a link with a team in Darwin and we'd love to get you up there. They're in the current VFL season, which is, I suppose, similar in a sense to like club football.
Mm.
If you could train there, maybe get an odd game or two under your belt, and it'll give us a good idea into, if we'd like to pick you up next year or whatever. So thankfully got that. I got to go out to Darwin for, I think it was maybe 3 weeks. It was 2, 3 or 4 weeks. I can't remember how long it was, but I did get to train with them, with Northern Territory Thunder. So that was the Darwin team. And then we had a VFL game. I can't remember. There was 3 games, and I togged out for 2 of them. And then the last one was against Collingwood, and it was actually down in Melbourne. And at the time, I had lived with Sarah, and we lived together for years, so she knew this as well. So she had just mentioned to Collingwood as well, like there's an Irish girl, there. So I got talking to Collingwood there as well, and I was flying home like 2 days later. So on my way home, I was very lucky. I had a few different offers from 3 or 4 different teams, which was great. And one of them was Collingwood, and essentially that's kind of how I got picked up. So it was good because I think back that September, I kind of thought my career was over in terms of
Yeah.
AFL. So it was nice then. The time, and obviously, what's for you won't pass you. And I think, it was the right time for me then. So that was good.
Yeah. So was 2020, was that your first season then?
Yeah, so it was 20. So the season has changed now. So it used to be that it kind of ran from November until like March time, and like the games were a lot less. Whereas now each year they're trying to get like 11 games and potentially 12 games next year. But it was from November until March. So I went out that November in 2019, and then COVID happened
Mm.
the February, March time. So the season actually was cut short Like there was no final, nothing like that, and got to go home. And then I didn't. Yeah, so it was the 2019-2020 season was my first season.
Yeah, because I was looking back at some old interviews you were doing, and like COVID was such a big part of the first few seasons. You almost forget it now, but like
Uh,
we're a few years removed. But like you had, so like you said, the first season was cut short with COVID, and then you had to do the quarantine the second season when you went
yeah,
out, and then I think even
the quarantine the
was
third season as well.
was it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was then because Australia had closed its borders. Like we literally just got out. Because like I was trying to get a flight back home to Ireland. And like Dubai airport had closed. Abu Dhabi, Singapore, all that kind of stuff. So to get like that transit from Australia, Melbourne to Ireland, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck in Australia. But
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been bad either. And eventually got home, and then we just had to wait until we could actually get granted permission to come back to Australia, which then was the December. So that was my first quarantine. And then played that season, came home the April, and then again the way it worked was like Australia had went into lockdown and Ireland had opened up, and then Ireland went back into lockdown. Like it was nearly like we were just missing things. So
yeah.
when I came back home that April, Ireland was open, whereas Australia was still a little bit closed off. And then when I wanted to get back in again, we had to do another quarantine. So we had two-week quarantines to do.
Yeah, and then did you miss the? I think one of the finals games then in 2022 maybe because of
Yeah,
isolation as well. So it was just
yeah,
constant with you.
yeah. Like that really like killed me, to be honest. My dad was over at the time as well, and he, he was hoping to stay for that game. So what happened was, um our whole team literally got wiped with COVID. I managed to avoid it. So we were supposed to play the quarter final against Brisbane, and then it was postponed the following week because a few teams had COVID. And then the following week, I was just late getting it, so
Yeah.
I was close contact and got it. So I actually ended up missing then the quarterfinal the following week. So that was unfortunate. But look, I've had a smooth enough run at my career in terms of like injuries and stuff, touch wood, like so I know obviously that is, that at the time I was kind of disappointed I was missing the quarterfinal, but look, that's just how it is.
And just in terms of like, moving to Melbourne, like for people that don't know, I think you were living in St. Kilda, which would be very much full of
Yeah.
Irish there. Was it hard as a professional athlete then to, I'm sure you knew loads of people there and people are constantly going to different social events and heading out and stuff like that. Do you have to separate yourself a little bit because you have to mind the body and you can't be going out all the time and doing stuff that people who are just living a regular life over there are doing?
Yeah, definitely. Like, when we're in season, like there's no such thing as, going out or anything like that, because it's
Mm,
literally game after game. Like there is no gap weekends or things like that. So, or even I find the best way to probably make friends over there is like, any of the social clubs, whether that's a run club, a book club, GA team. I could never go out and play GA even though I really wanted to, but it's just the way the season works. So sometimes it probably was hard to meet friends because, you're just like, I suppose, friends outside of your AFLW
mm.
friends, because you spend majority of your time there. But look, them girls, there's a good contingency of Irish as well out there that was playing AFLW, so we were all kind of in the one boat. But I like there has been times there last season I got to stay on for a lot longer and play a bit of GA over there, which was so nice. And got to meet loads of friends as well, which yeah, so that was good.
Yeah, and Melbourne is obviously famous for its coffee as well. Have you
Yeah.
adjusted since you've come home? Have you found anywhere that you can get coffee that's on a similar level to Melbourne?
I don't think it'll ever be on the similar level to Melbourne, but I did do a barista course over there. So to understand like how is it so good. But yeah, there's a few local ones beside me here, and then obviously loads of the ones in Dublin. It's just a little bit of a spin for me. But yeah, no, I did my barista course. I got myself a proper
Yeah.
like coffee machine. So definitely a coffee snob.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody who moves out there becomes a
Yeah,
coffee snob once they come back. And
yeah,
just like in terms of say the work-life balance over there, and I think even just people who are working regular jobs will see the difference. It's more of an early morning lifestyle. You get up early and you get out and about and you train even
yeah.
before work and things like that. But obviously the weather is a big factor as well. But what was that like? Was that something you enjoyed?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely a morning person. So getting up early and stuff never fazed me. With the way AFLW worked was because it's still only semi-professional.
Mm,
Now this year there's been a slight change, and like last year we tried to introduce a day training session, or like training at 2 in the day, but 99% of our trainings, unless we went into the gym early ourselves, was at 6 p.m. in the evening. So
okay.
very similar to county setup here or club setup. So our training was all evening time, and the men would be training in the morning. But again, it's because we're semi-professional, so we have teachers, paramedics, things like that. So girls that actually go do their day's work and then come to training that evening.
Yeah. So what would that look like then? Because I think you'd be in the club then for a good few hours. You might do your training and then you might have like
Mm.
analysis or you're working with individual coaches or doing S&C as well. Can you just kind of lay out what the structure of say a training evening would have been when you're with the club?
Yeah, so depending on if we're pre-season or in season, it might look a little bit different. So like in season, for example, our Mondays were our recovery days. So you'd have massage, recovery, you might have personal development stuff, and then you'd have your line kind of feedback and line kind of game review. So if you're forward, mid, back, whatever that might be. So you'd be in there for a few hours, and then you might have a full team review, and then we'd get lunch. And then if it was a main training evening, which would have been maybe a Tuesday evening or a Wednesday evening, so you'd probably arrive in any time from 3 o'clock onwards, and maybe meet up with one of the coaches, go through some individual game review and see, areas you can improve on, if you
Mm,
needed physio or any medical attention, and then if do all your kind of prehab, your activations and stuff, then you might have a meeting maybe around 5 o'clock for half an hour with the whole team, or maybe like things like that to go through the next game coming up, and then you probably train from 6 p.m. until like 8 p.m. So, and then it'd be recovery, shower, dinner, and home. So you probably won't be home till 10 o'clock. So you kind of be in
mm.
from like 3 till 10.
Yeah, yeah, and you get loads in
Yeah,
there as well. Just on
yeah.
the working with coaches and looking at your own highlights and stuff like that. I know you said before that you'd be a harsh critic of yourself, but what was it like when you're looking at tapes of your games, you're sitting there with a coach and they're pointing out, different
It's
areas you can improve.
yeah, it's brilliant. Like because no game is ever perfect, and especially like if I was in the midfield, sometimes I might go through some of the other mids videos as well with the midfield coach, because, we all learn off each other as well. And they show
Mm,
you some of the things you did really well, but also show you areas of improvement. So like, to be fair, there's a lot of work that goes in on the coach's behalf, having to clip, I mean, so many videos of each individual player, and even if you're not on the ball, the run you make, things like that. So to me it was one of the best ways to learn, because there's so much to learn. You never fully know everything. And I loved it. And again, you're never going to have a perfect game, and you have to be open to, I suppose, being able to receive feedback and how you can improve. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's criticism. Sometimes people might think that, oh, they're slating my game. It's not that at all. It's just where they can see you can do better. So,
mm,
personally, that was a must on every person's behalf. So, you had to have your meeting with your line coach. That was every single player. And even if you probably didn't get a game, you might still meet with a line coach and go through, positions that you potentially could be playing, and see, okay, this is what this person did. What could they have done better here? What did they do good here? Things like that. So,
mm.
it's there is a lot to learn, but a lot of work does go into it.
Mm. And like I know you have a background in you studied athletic therapy in
Yeah.
DCU and you work now as a personal trainer, but what would have been the biggest things you would have learned in terms of like how you prepare your body when you go into an environment like that and you've access to such good S&C coaches and different things?
Mm.
Was there any areas that you learned that you hadn't been aware of before in terms of how to get the most out of yourself on the pitch?
Sometimes less is more. I think that's one thing. Like, load is very much monitored over there now. In pre-season, you can't afford to, have a heavy training load. But like we had one of the best S&Cs. Like I openly say I love that man. He was so good. His knowledge, and even his staff that worked around him, like, we used to pick his brain the whole time, constantly wanting to learn, and any extras or anything like that. Like, he genuinely was the best. His name's Paul Turks. He's over now working in Perth, but I miss him loads, and just learned so much of him about load management, the one percenters, things like that. And especially as I said, we're playing games each weekend, and it wasn't necessarily about constantly doing runs even in season. Like, it was about making sure it's sometimes less is more. If you have any niggle, talk to the medics, see, medical team, like, see, are you okay to train, things like that. Any areas to work on, and then you have your end of year review. But I suppose that was one thing, the gym work as well. Like, I do have a good knowledge of the gym, but just the fine tuning and the 1% things, and kind of
Mm.
strengthening the weaker areas. But to be fair, all the staff over there, like, even the medical staff, things like that, like, they're all phenomenal, and very, very, very lucky to have been able to work and have them coach me and things like that.
Yeah, that sounds class. Can you give
Yeah.
any examples of, say, the one percenters that you would have been doing that specifically for you that would have helped you get it advanced a little bit in terms of the S&C side of things?
Yeah, so hamstring thing was a big thing always looked at with us, and noticing any kind of, if there's any you know, every week we get our hamstrings tested, or our adductors, our jump height, and things like that. Noticing, okay, maybe there's been a little bit of a dip here.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of sometimes was looked at, it's because we all used to try track as much as we can, is our menstrual cycle, and understanding, whereabouts we were at on that. And that obviously still takes a lot more research, but that was another thing that they kind of wanted to start looking at, seeing maybe girls what stage they're at, and if they needed to maybe just take a little bit or take time off training to get back to their best recovery. And then yeah, but that was one thing for me I noticed, because that's probably one of my weaker areas, is my hamstring strength. I would have a lot of, kind of suffer a lot with tendinopathy, so just monitoring that and trying to get them as strong as possible. But that was probably one of the main things.
Mm. I was watching one of the videos you did with the club when you were, I think you were preparing for a game, so you were just bringing them through like what you eat before a game and stuff, but you were going into a little bit of journaling as well pre-game, and just talking about different KPIs you might have had in terms of what you want to do in the game.
Yeah.
Is that something that they would really encourage as a club? Is that a big thing over there?
Yeah, like, at the start of every year, you kind of have areas you might look at that you want to improve on, even in pre-season. So for me, it could have been ground balls, which is, picking the ball off the ground,
Mm.
especially when it's coming at you any kind of way, or maybe areas, which is your high catching, or you're kicking on the run, things like that. So we kind of used to pick a few different areas, kind of specific to the individual of what you wanted to work on. And then maybe at the end of training, they might say, okay, you have 10 minutes to work on your KPIs. Over there is ground balls, here's aerials. And you'd go and you'd pick something that was relevant to you. But yeah, so in terms of the journaling, that was probably, I don't know if everyone does it. I know I just have always been a fan of it. Some people might go about their things different ways, or some people might even want to think of things like that in case it gets them
Mm.
too worked up. But for me, yeah, it's, with my journaling, it was kind of certain things I'd focus on, but like understanding too that sometimes games are out of your control. So, because I remember someone asked me about, do you set a goal on how much you want to score in a game? And I'm like, no, I actually don't, because you could play a team and get hammered, and then all of a sudden you think you're a failure because you didn't hit your goal. So I'd more so look at, I want my scoring efficiency to be 90%. And if I
Mm.
don't get a chance to score, whatever, that's it. But if I do get that opportunity, I want my score efficiency to be this, instead of I want to score 1-5, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So certain goals I used to set like that was kind of specific ones, but also understanding that, sometimes things are out of your control, and that whether that's, I wanted to try be physical in the tackle, or yeah, there was all different things.
Yeah, and I know you've said before as well, you would definitely like to stay calm before a game where some players might be getting a bit more pumped
Yeah.
up, but would there be any other aspects of like your psychological preparation before a game? Do you have a little routine that you would go through from game day in the dressing room, and then once you come out onto the pitch, or are there any other little areas that you would focus on mentally before a
Yeah.
game?
A big thing for me would be, I'd try get out the kind of, if it was a morning game, I'd maybe do it the day before. But if it's an evening game, maybe just I used to go for a walk, but I listen to music, but I do a lot of visualization. So putting myself into certain like positions in my head and thinking of what will I do if this happens? But it's one thing I still do now with Gaelic football. Like I'll go for a walk and I'll listen to music and I like to visualize a lot of things. Because I just find it helps me then if I ever do get into a certain situation. But in terms of pre-game routines, I never really had anything too much. Just I listen to music. I like to keep myself calm and I know that I've the work done prior to the game.
Yeah, yeah. And like I kind of touched on the video earlier that the Collingwood did, and it seems to be a big thing over there, in both the men's and the women's game, that they encourage players to build up their personal brands. So whether that's, appearing on podcasts or a lot of videos that they give people a bit of insight, their players are definitely encouraged to promote themselves a good bit. And there's a big contrast when you look at GA where it's almost the opposite.
Yeah.
You want to stay out of the limelight and you don't want to be saying anything, especially in the media coming up to a game and stuff like that. Did you notice a big difference when you went over there in terms of how they want you to promote yourself and get yourself out there?
Yeah, like it definitely is, and that was one thing, I especially me when I was posting a few stuff and posting a few things on social media, I was kind of like nervous. Oh my God, people's gonna judge me, or people's gonna be like, "What is she doing?" But never once have I ever felt that, and if anything, that constantly encouraged me. Now, in saying that, we do get a bit of media training, so we know what you
Yeah,
have to be careful. Like, I'm not going to spill the team the night before a game, that kind of thing.
yeah,
But there is a lot, and even if we are doing certain interviews and stuff, we do have a media team that talks us through things. So we're very lucky in that sense. Whereas here, obviously, it's an amateur sport. We don't have a media team in your county set up. So, I suppose there is that kind of side of it too. But yeah, no, I have to say they always encouraged you and never like, they really encourage you to be yourself. And that was one thing I found with Collingwood. No matter who you were or what your interests were, they always encouraged it and everyone felt like they could be themselves. And that was something that was just so special, I think, to everyone that was around the club.
yeah. So that media training, I think people will find interesting because you're still, like you said, encouraged to be yourself, and you can still give a bit of insight into your life and your career
Yeah.
and stuff. But at the same time, you're not spilling team secrets. Where in AGA, there's probably a view that you just say nothing, and even if it's not really going to be particularly give away any secrets from the dressing room. Can you give it a bit of insight into what kind of things they'll be looking at in terms of media training?
Yeah, well, like, so if any of the stuff I record, I'd never record inside the club because that's personal and,
Yeah,
I wouldn't do it anyways. It's not my information to share, whether it's I'm just showing pictures on the wall. So I'd
yeah,
rarely record anything in the club. Like if I'm going to train, okay, I'm at training and then I'll pick up and do the rest of the videos and stuff after training. And then the media team themselves might capture photos and videos and stuff, but they know exactly what they can and can't. But it might be something simple as just doing a radio interview and, they might have, or if you're going live on television, they might have giving you a rundown on some questions and stuff, which is just really helpful because there probably is times it hasn't happened to me where people try to catch people off guard. And it can be very overwhelming when you're in a one-on-one interview or you're live on television and all of a sudden you stop and you don't know what to say. So
yeah,
it's just kind of things like that that just give you confidence to know how to answer questions and also like not panic on the spot because it can be quite overwhelming. But again, like it's their job. They're so helpful. Or if like even if someone came and approached us to do something, they've no problem with us being like, oh look, this person asked me, have you any tips in that? And they're very, very helpful. But it just helps because again, it hasn't happened to me, but I'm sure there has been times where people have tried to catch people off guard. But I don't know of any, but I'm sure it has happened.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And what's it been like coming back to Cavan this season then? Like was it a bit of a frustrating season for you coming back into the fold with Cavan?
Yeah, so this season, I've just been playing with my club. Because I was doing a bit of traveling, I ended up doing a few family holidays, did the Camino and stuff. Again, as I kind of mentioned earlier on, I only commit to things 100%. And I just kind of took this year for myself. And so I wasn't involved in Cavan, but I followed it closely. I hope to be involved next season. I just wanted to take this kind of bit of time to myself. But I think it was a bit frustrating for them. It's tough. There was a full new panel.
Mm.
Like I think potentially 28 out of the 30 girls were all fresh. Which is a massive turnover for any team. But um look, I think every team goes through that, whether it's a club team or a county team. You're never going to keep the same individuals all the time because there is part of the lives, people want to live part of their lives. For me, it was my first time stepping away from the county for 1 year since I was 16 when I first started playing with Cavan Senior
Mm,
Ladies, and I'm 28 now. I did miss one season because I actually was playing AFL. They changed the season, so I couldn't come home. Um, and that was the one season I missed. And then I took this year. So, like, that's 10 years, 10, 11 years maybe. And I kind of had, I had my year this year, and I'm like ready to get back at it. But I've just been playing club football and probably been playing some of the best football I have been playing, but I have been training since January and been able to solely focus on it and build that confidence. Um, but yeah, no, it's just been, and I think it's just been so enjoyable, and I've been loving it.
yeah, I hadn't realized you didn't go back in this year. It must have been nice to have a summer then where you don't have the pressure of constantly trying to make sure that
Yeah.
keeping on top of everything. So what was it like? Like especially the Camino, that sounds like it was a really good experience.
Yeah, and like it was one thing my mom always said she wanted to do, and I always told her I'd do it with her. And it was funny because I've never been able to book a holiday and not have to look at a calendar. Do you know that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because it was around the time the leaving cert, so like even there was no club football, and I just remember being like this is so strange. Like, you know, I can just go away and not have to be like, okay, no, we're just finished league championship start and things like that. So to be fair, I absolutely adored the Camino. It was definitely, you definitely felt very like there's a self achievement at the end of it. So we did 118 kilometers in 5 days walking.
Wow.
And it was just such a lovely time as well to spend with my mom and be out in the outdoors and just something new. And probably would never have got to do it if I was playing football. So this year I got like a lot of experiences. I got to go visit some family that I've never met before in South Africa with my family and do things like that. Again, didn't have to look at a calendar, which was so
Mhm.
strange to me. But as I said, like I've really enjoyed this year, but like equally I'm ready to get back into the swing of, football and just get the head down and get working hard.
Yeah. And yeah, so you were saying we were chatting off there a bit before we started recording and we were just talking about coaching online and what that's been like for you. That must be really helpful when you were traveling over and back from Australia. You were spending some time over there, some time back in Ireland, and you had your business, so you didn't necessarily have to go into an office or anything like that. How has that been like over the last few years, developing the online business and your coaching?
Yeah, like I've been so lucky. I absolutely adore it. I love working with people, like I genuinely do. I would probably love to get into as well, like working in person with people because part of me does miss that social element of, just meeting someone. I work from home, I work for myself. And I don't really have much reason to nearly leave the house, which I don't like. I'd nearly
Mm,
love to be going out meeting people, like, and I do miss that element. But in terms of the online coaching business, I absolutely love it, and I'd love to just keep developing it and keep learning because there's so much to learn. And then obviously the things with like social media, I try to keep posting on that, and keep getting good information out to help people because I know if I was even a few years younger, and had people are explaining food stuff deep before games or training workouts, things like that, I would have absolutely loved it. So I try to share as much information as I can because it just gives me so much joy. And then all it takes is for one person to say, "Oh, I did your workout," and it honestly puts the biggest smile on my face because I just love the idea of helping people. So yeah, I've been thoroughly enjoying my online coaching, and it all kind of started from COVID. I when in lockdown, I was doing my because I used to coach classes in person prior to going to Australia,
yeah.
and I just started the online classes and then started doing one-on-one stuff and currently doing some a Pilates course as well, and hopefully complete a reformer course as well because I would love to kind of delve into that because it was one thing I got big into in Australia. And yeah, hopefully something like that in the near future.
Mm. Like there must have been like there's a huge amount you can take from your career in Australia as well. Like there's not many online coaches who have the professional background that you have coming from the things you would have learned over there. And the Aussies are generally a little bit ahead of the rest of the world. You probably find
Yeah.
in terms of science and S&C and that kind of thing. So there's definitely something different you can offer to people as well, given your background at elite level sport.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one thing I really try to do. And I like to just be, I'm definitely not one of these coaches that would say, you're not allowed to eat chocolate for 4 weeks. Like, I don't believe in any of that. Like, if anyone
Mm,
said that to me, I'm sorry, I'm like, I can't. Or if, and I have turned away people working with me because they've come, they're like, I want to do extreme dieting. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's not my ethos. I am all about a healthy, balanced lifestyle and just helping you feel your best, play your best, train your best. Or even if you're just someone who just goes to the gym, just feel your best. So, I have learned a lot from Australia though, and just being able to, balance that kind of lifestyle, but still achieve your goals. And then also the whole training aspect, and how to get the best out of your training and your performance. And I do work with a lot of GA athletes, especially females. So, it's just about helping them so that they're fresh and ready to perform in their game at the weekend or things like that. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, sometimes less is more. I know here we constantly think, well, I need to add an extra running session, and I train Tuesday and Friday, so I'm going to add extra running, and then I'm going to add a
mm,
bike, and then I'm going to do three. And I'm like, no, 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 because come Sunday, you'll be asking, why did I have no energy? So, um, I love that kind of thing. And I think that was one thing I learned is like how, as I mentioned earlier, how to balance your whole week so that you can get the best out of yourself, especially for any of the GA athletes.
mm. And can you break us through, say, what your training week would look like then yourself? Because as you said, you're playing club football, and I know you do a lot of the workouts. You would post them on social media that you're putting out there. So, um, what would your week look like in terms of your individual training and then your club training as well?
Yeah, so I like to kind of stick to 2 or 3 gym sessions, especially in season now. So 2 or 3 gym sessions, and it'll be 3 pitch sessions, one of those being um a game. So usually it might be like I might do full body on a Monday, depending if I had a game the Sunday or the Saturday and how my legs are feeling.
Mm,
And then I might go do some shooting that evening because I take a lot of the frees. So I just have to keep drilling that in. And then Tuesday would be team training. Wednesday would be maybe a bit of upper body. Again, I might do a bit of shooting. Again, depends how my legs are feeling. It might only be 10 minutes worth, or I'll just go outside with the ball in the street and just practice my hands, things like that, like hand passing. Thursday, I do generally like a power session. So it's maybe 5 or 6 exercises, a few jumps, and maybe a few Olympic lifts, things like that. And then Friday, team session, Saturday, rest day, Sunday game. So one thing for sure is I like to have a full on rest day there. And I always say to people as well, a rest day isn't getting 20,000 steps because I'm not training. A
mm.
rest day is I don't even look at my watch because I'm just doing nothing. Do you know that kind of thing? Because your body
Yeah.
needs to rest mentally and physically too. And I would, again, for me, performance in the game is the main focus. So that could completely change. If my body's feeling fatigued or tired, I'll be taking out some of them sessions because I'm always focusing on the game. So sometimes I mightn't even do the shooting because it just depends how my hamstrings and stuff are feeling.
Mm, and that kind of leads into my next question about, I know you have a background in injury prevention and stuff like that as well. So, has that helped your own career, first of all? And secondly, do you have any advice that you would give to GA players how to avoid injury, especially this time of the year when we're in championship mode for a lot of players and it's coming to the business end of the season. So, are there any small things players can do to help avoid picking up those niggles and injuries at this time of year?
Load management is massive. Like, don't overtrain. If you overtrain, you're asking or you're leaving yourself so susceptible to get injured because your body can only tolerate so much. So load management is massive. But I every time people ask me, what's the best recovery protocols, or like I'll always bring it back to your sleep. If you're not getting adequate sleep and getting enough, your body's going to be fatigued, and that has a ripple effect on everything. Your nutrition, if you're under fueling, you're think of a car. If you're not giving it enough fuel, it's not going to go far. You need to make sure you're always replenishing. If you have a tough training session, replenish, and make sure you're eating enough food. And rest, and yeah, rest would be another big thing, and then your water. So they're kind of always my main injury prevention things. Obviously, you could go out, someone could push you, and you roll your ankle.
Mm,
But load management is massive, and that I suppose ties in with your rest and your nutrition. Your sleep, and then your other things like your activations, getting your hamstring prehab done, or your glutes, anything that you kind of, if you know you have a maybe an area that gets a little bit injured, whether it's your ankles, do your ankle stability work, things like that. It only has to be 2 or 3 exercises, but keep a routine with them. I know for me, my hamstrings, again, as I've always said, will be a big focus. So they do need a little bit more attention before games and stuff. So they're kind of my main areas.
Brilliant. Um, yeah, you've been brilliant with your time. So if people want to follow the stuff you're doing, especially with the coaching side of things, where's the best place they can follow you?
So on Instagram, if you search @_Ash_fit_, I have a separate Instagram which is Aishling Sheridan, and that is my TikTok as well. But you'll be able to go onto either page and you'll see a link to my website if you want to find out more information.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll link those as well in the show notes when I'm putting it out there. But
Thanks so
yeah,
much.
Aisling, thanks very much for jumping on today. Really appreciate you giving us the time and just giving us a bit of insight into your career over the last few years. So best of luck with the club championship first of all, and then hopefully getting back on the pitch with Cavan next season.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.